Well, first of all, what kind of mythical powers does a Sun Devil have? We got to consider that.
You all don't remember the Georgia Southern game, do you?
You know, I hope there's Bigfoot. I don't think there is.
Like rat poison. All right, so
It's Division One football! It ain't intramurals!
All right, and welcome back to the Hoppy Huddle podcast. My name's Jake. Ed is mysteriously missing. He has been kidnapped by ghosts and is actually hunting down in Baton Rouge and Oxford to try and find out for the Hoppy Huddle where Lane Kiffin is going. Nobody knows. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I'm not sure what's going on. It's a weird day. It's a solo show. We've got just weirdness going on. So, all right, let's get the camera set up here. Okay, well, I appreciate and thank you for tuning in today. We have got Week 12 reactions. We're going to be talking about all the best games that happened over the past weekend. We are going to be discussing the upsets, the very many almost upsets. There was quite a few. This camera's still being strange. There we go. Is that a little better? All right, good enough. We got quite a few very near misses in the upset department as college football games have gone this past weekend. We had some top 10 teams almost lose. We had a top 10 team that did lose. We had some reshuffling in the playoff picture, and especially in a couple of conferences with presences in the South. Man, the playoff picture is about as clear as mud on a rainy day because it makes absolutely zero sense. You can't tell me who's going to be in. I can't tell you who's going to be in. I have no idea what's going to happen. We've got a 12-team playoff, and you have to put 12 teams in the playoff. That's just how that works. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what ends up happening. I'm going to try and go through the games with you here. We're going to do the solo show. Please hop in the chat if you're watching live. If you're not watching live, make sure to follow on YouTube. Smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. That way you can see next time we're going live. You can hop in the chat, ask me and Ed questions, and get our beautiful insights into the great game that is college football. And today, let's start with a game breakdown. But before we get to the game breakdown, we do have some coaching carousel news. That is right. The coaching carousel spins again, baby. Spin it, spin it, spin it. And what happened is that Virginia Tech has hired James Franklin, former Penn State head coach, to be their new head football coach. This is official. It's broken by all the major suspects you would expect: ESPN, On3, 24/7, CBS, all the usual suspects. James Franklin apparently agreed to a diminished buyout with his Penn State with his Penn State contract, and so they gave him basically a lump sum instead of a offsetting buyout. So it's better for Penn State, saves them money, gives James Franklin more money than he would plus his current coaching salary. It basically was a kind of a double way deal so that Penn State could save money and that James Franklin doesn't have to worry about his new salary offsetting his potential earnings if he just sat out and did nothing as a coach. I think this is really interesting and shakes up a lot in the ACC. We've kind of heard rumblings behind the scenes at Virginia Tech that they may be looking to make a more substantial financial commitment to their athletic program, especially in the football department. They've been severely lacking behind even a lot of other mediocre ACC programs. They've been kind of mid of the pack with Duke and NC State and a lot of teams that you wouldn't really expect to be football powerhouses, vastly outspending them. And I think that's, in theory, supposed to change with James Franklin. He got some sort of a commitment to financial resources from the administration in Blacksburg. I think with this, it's also important to note that Penn State's recruiting footprint is squarely in the state of Virginia. And so he is absolutely intimately familiar with Virginia, with Maryland, with West Virginia, with Pennsylvania, the whole kind of Tidewater, Mid-Atlantic South, and middle of the Midwest area. I think a lot of the connections he built while he was at Penn State, especially with high schools, with players, with communities, that will transfer over very easily to Virginia Tech. And if they can start recruiting talent now, kind of ahead of a lot of the other coaches that may be moving, and I would not be surprised to see commits that were committed to Penn State and James Franklin flip to Virginia Tech, considering it's a similar geographic region. And so I'm sure he's going hard at that right now. As for Virginia Tech's future in the ACC, it's really interesting to me because the ACC this year has been wide open. There are a couple of teams that have resource-wise positioned themselves at the top of the conference. Miami is the number one spender in the conference right now with regard to talent acquisition. North Carolina has put a lot of money into their talent acquisition and their coaching staff, but they've vastly wasted this. This has been a huge mismanagement with North Carolina. Clemson has a lot of resources, but has kind of maxed them out. And under Dabo Sweeney, it's kind of an open question to see if they can really ascend to those heights in the new era. And besides the big three, Florida State is a complete mess. So besides Florida State, Miami, and Clemson, Carolina and SMU, Virginia Tech can be right there in terms of resources and recruiting, and they right there with Louisville and that sort of camp. If they can get everything aligned, I see there's no reason they can't be a program that can compete for ACC titles. As much as I've enjoyed as a University of Virginia Wahoo, as much as I've enjoyed the downfall and the relegation to mediocrity of Virginia Tech's football program, I think if they get alignment from the administration here's the thing. I don't think James Franklin would have agreed to this if he didn't get guarantees of alignment and of financial resources from the administration at Blacksburg. He had tons of other options in the coaching world. This was well known. He was being considered for lots of jobs, some of which may not even be open yet. So my thinking here is that he's pretty certain that they're going to give him the guarantees that he wants. Coming in with his new team coming into Blacksburg. So that's a lot on Virginia Tech. I think it's interesting. I think it's better for the ACC when they're more of their programs that have potential to succeed, do so. I think it's better for college football when more teams are good. So that's kind of where I see the Virginia Tech program at the moment. All right. Moving on, a quick note on Lane Kiffin. We still don't know what's happening there. It's an open question where he's going to go. I don't think he knows where he's going to go. I think he sent his family to Baton Rouge on Sunday and to Gainesville on Monday and today. And so I kind of think he hasn't made up his mind yet. And so anybody who's telling you they know exactly what he's going to do, I don't think he's decided yet. If he's sending his family to these places, I think he's like still mulling it over. He's like, well, let's see, if your whole family's going there, what do you like? What do you not like? He's got a good situation with his son, Knox Kiffin, and his daughter is at Ole Miss. So I think it'll be interesting, but I don't think that he's actually made a decision yet. So anybody out there claiming that to say they know where he's going, I think is probably full of it. So just keep your eyes peeled, and if anything happens in the Lane Kiffin department, you'll know, and everybody will know, and he'll win football games wherever he goes. All right, that's enough coaching carousel for today. Let's talk about the games, and I think we have to start off with what happened in Athens, Georgia, because Texas walked in there thinking, all right, this is our time. We stake our claim in the playoff in this game. And they got dog walked, okay? Absolutely obliterated. And I don't just say that because Georgia is the Bulldogs, all right? They did get dog walked. They looked completely outclassed across the board. All right. Arch Manning was mediocre at best. One TD, one interception, 27 for 43. Gunnar Stockton looked pretty good. 82% completion percentage, 229 yards, 4 TDs, and 1 interception. Gunnar Stockton has command of that offense. He's kind of come into his own. And I know we give the Georgia offense a lot of credit and blame for the kind of puttiness and the side to side kind of plays that they call. But you want to talk about putt offense? That was the Texas offense, man. All of the old problems that we've had with Texas offense the entire year reared their ugly head again in the Georgia game. And this time their defense couldn't save them. The Texas defense put up a valiant effort for the first part of the game there, but eventually the dam broke and there was not much that Texas was able to do. Eventually, if your offense is not scoring any points, the defense can only hold up for so long. I mean, it was 14-3 at halftime, but and then they held them to 0 in the third quarter. But the dam broke in the fourth, and that was the game. The game, it felt like it was in reach in the third. It's 14-10, but like the way the teams were playing, it was not really in reach. And yeah, I think this should end Texas's playoff hopes. They would need absolute pandemonium to have a prayer at the playoff at 3 losses, especially with one of them to a bad Florida team. And so because of that, I think you can probably mail in Texas's playoff hopes now. I think there's a small chance if the right things break the right way that maybe they could sneak in as one of the lower seeds, but that's not something that I would put on it. Georgia, meanwhile, has set themselves up in the SEC to really have a chance to compete for the SEC title. They are currently second place in the SEC at 7-1, behind the 7-0 Texas A&M Aggies. Ole Miss and Alabama are right behind them, and there's some really interesting tie-breaking situations that are going to go on here. And I don't have the math off the top of my head about who goes where and what all the tiebreakers are. I think that it's not actually head-to-head. I think the opponent in conference winning percentage is above the head-to-head tiebreaker when it comes to the SEC championship in tied records. So I don't think that just because Alabama and Georgia both have 1 loss and that Alabama has the head-to-head win over Georgia, I don't think that means that Alabama is over top of Georgia in the SEC conference ratings. Same thing, putting Ole Miss there. I think the order, Ole Miss is going to need probably a lot of help to make the SEC championship game. Right now, SEC championship picture looks like Georgia and A&M, barring some calamity that happens at other positions. Alabama, I don't know. I think Alabama can get in if a couple different teams win and the winning percentage changes. But again, I'm not can't do that, and I don't. It's a complicated game of these different tiebreakers. So for the playoff picture in the SEC, you know what? We'll get to the playoff picture in a second. Let's talk about the games a little more. So Georgia beats Texas soundly. Virginia, the fighting Wahoos, the Cavaliers, the Who's, Virginia drubs the Duke Blue Devils in a game that pretty much everybody I know is expecting Duke and Manny Diaz defense to come out and stop that Virginia offense. But that is not what happened. Chandler Morris, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's a very Chandler Morris stat line right there. But he played well. The Virginia passing attack was full throttle. The Virginia rushing attack was full throttle. Virginia's offense is good. They're not a bad team. They're 9-2. They're sitting right there in the ACC championship race, and good on the Hoos for getting that victory in a key race. And it also prevents what would have been catastrophic Duke Blue Devils ACC championship appearance and doomsday scenario for the ACC. Moving over to the Big 12, BYU obliterated TCU. Not much to say there. Arizona upset number 22 Cincinnati, and pretty much ruins their Big 12 championship hopes. There's, I think, still a wild scenario where a bunch of teams lose in front of them and they come out with the victory, but it's extremely unlikely. So Cincinnati probably out of the Big 12 title race. Also, in the Big 12, Utah destroys Baylor. I expect Dave Aranda to be fired at the end of the season. I think that's kind of the last straw. I mean, you can't lose 55. You can't give up 55 points at home with the offense that you have. So Arizona State survives West Virginia. And I'm telling you, dude, the Rich Rod, his team has got some fight in it in Morgantown. And so I don't be surprised when they're a sneaky pick next year to get some upsets, and they'll be a good team. Another ranked matchup, Notre Dame at Pitt. This wasn't a contest. Notre Dame was the more talented team. Notre Dame was the more physical team. CJ Carr didn't even play that well. He threw 2 interceptions. He was all right. But it doesn't matter because Jeremiah Love is insane. 147 yards rushing, 6.4 yards per carry. Mason Heinstiel, mediocre for Pitt. The Pitt, in retrospect, the Pitt run has kind of largely depended on a pretty weak schedule for the Panthers. And so looking back on that, that's maybe some context there that we were missing leading up to it. You could have known if you were there. Notre Dame, man, they're interesting. They have the 2 losses to 2 pretty good teams at this point. They're number 9. We're currently ranked. I didn't check the AP poll as of today, but they're not out of the playoff picture. They're squarely in it, and it's kind of strange. With that USC win, it is carrying a lot of weight for them, and rightfully so. I mean, USC is a good team, but it'll be interesting to see how this playoff picture breaks down with Notre Dame. Again, you kind of don't know what the committee is going to do because they've shown a willingness to completely disregard their previous rankings on the final selection Sunday. And so it's kind of you can play these games with they're currently ranked and moving up and moving down and everything that goes along with that. But there's really not a whole lot we can say definitively until we get to Selection Sunday because the committee just likes to make stuff up. So I think with Notre Dame, if they win out, I'm pretty certain they're going to be in, but it's not entirely certain where they're going to be ranked along with that. Welcome to the chat, Reed. We got multiple huddlers in the chat. Welcome. We're doing a solo show tonight, so get your questions in. I'll answer them live. And this is what we do. The huddle continues on. The show cannot be stopped. All right, we just talked Pitt, Notre Dame, and Virginia Duke. Sorry, I already hit Virginia Duke, but we can just Chandler Morris had a very Chandler Morris game. Manny Diaz got put in a box. Have to say, mid Diaz more like. But so just hit that. I think we got to talk about the big game, though, we haven't gotten to yet. Oklahoma, Alabama. What a paradox of a game, Oklahoma, Alabama. This game, if you watch this, if you're just like it's the box score scouting, which is what I did because I actually wasn't on the couch watching this game. I had to rewatch this game on Sunday. So I went into this game being like, oh, I thought Oklahoma, Mateer, they must have done really awesome. And then I go back and I watch this game and I'm like, how did Oklahoma win? And then the answer is turnovers. But Oklahoma won basically on the back of their defense, with their offense being very incompetent. This was not the material of the Michigan game. We have not talked Texas A&M, South Carolina yet. We will get to that, believe me. Um, yeah, yeah. So the Alabama Oklahoma game. What did I say coming into this game? Right, I said in the preview that if you can get pressure on Ty Simpson without blitzing, he will make bad decisions. And yes, he still threw for 328 yards, 66% completion percentage. He wasn't bad, but he threw one interception. And Oklahoma was able to stop Alabama's offense because Simpson looked vulnerable. Simpson made some throws. We were like, wow, that's pretty great. But also, when there was pressure and there was a lot of guys that were tight windows, there were guys in the back dropping into zone or a soft man. He missed some throws. Okay, he missed some throws long to the sideline, and yeah, he wasn't fantastic. You can still see the vision for Ty Simpson, but coming into this game, I said, if you get pressure on him without blitzing, he's a different quarterback. And I think that's pretty clear after watching this game. Not really a lot of flowers for Mateer, though. No interceptions, which I guess is a kudos for him. He didn't lead the team to victory as much as he prevented the team from losing, which I guess that's a positive. It's a step in the right direction. But it's just, we saw the flashes of Mateer early in the season, and some of that was just kind of luck based, but some of that you're like, man, I wish he could get back to that. I think some of it's the injury, some of it's a bit, I guess, a tougher competition. Michigan's defense, not quite some of these SEC teams this year. So I'd like to see a little bit more from Mateer. I think for Oklahoma, Deion Burks had, he's one of their better receivers. He did all right. Alabama, again, not super strong in the pass rush. I mean, they got pressure on him, but they don't have the monsters like they used to at Alabama. And so, yeah, Alabama, Oklahoma, this makes me less confident in Alabama, but not more confident in Oklahoma, if that makes any sense. Coming out of this game, I think Alabama's ceiling is lower than some of the midseason expectations where we thought they kind of might have been a Death Star. But it also doesn't really raise the ceiling for me with Oklahoma, because they're kind of the team that I thought they've been ever since they lost to Texas, which is an elite defense and a very limited offense. So that's kind of my thoughts there. It really makes the playoff picture very interesting, because Alabama now they got to win out. They got to beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl, which is no given. And by the way, the Hoppy Huddle will be live from Jordan Hare Stadium in Auburn, Alabama, to watch that game. So you better believe I'm going to be excited for that. Oklahoma also has to win out. They play, I believe it's Missouri and LSU. Missouri can be a tough game, especially there's kind of some rumors that Pribula may be back for this game. And if Pribula is back, that'll be even more tougher out. However, I don't think LSU is going to be much of a matchup. They're not going to have a head coach. But yeah, that'll be interesting for sure. So kind of how Oklahoma makes the playoff is, I think they win out, right? Alabama makes the playoff, they win out. But also, you got to think Texas is probably going to lose too, because if it's between a 3-loss Texas and a 2-loss Oklahoma, and Texas has a win over Oklahoma, and their one other loss is the out-of-conference game to Ohio State, the number 1 team in the country, there's maybe a debate there that some people are having. Now, the committee might have. I don't like that debate, because I don't think Texas is a very good football team. And I don't think they should be in if they have 3 losses. But I'm not the committee, and the committee is stupid, okay? The committee is owned by people. All right. we've talked enough about Alabama, Oklahoma. Where do we want to go next? Let's see. Let's talk Indiana, Wisconsin. No, we're not going to talk Indiana, Wisconsin. Let's talk. Oh yeah, Texas A&M, South Carolina. Man, you cannot celebrate too early. You cannot, if you're Shane Beamer, maybe be a little more reserved going into halftime at this game. He got the noodle arms up in the air, like, woo, we won. We did it, boys. Hey, another half of football, man. Another half of football to go. Yeah, the Marcel Reed Heisman campaign that never was proved itself to be never was in this game. Texas A&M showed its limitations in the first half, and then they showed their strengths in the second half, right? They were down 30-3 to South Carolina. Their solid defense all year long gave up a ton of points in the first half. However, it was also turnovery. It was a bit gimmicky. I wouldn't say entirely gimmicky. Marcel Reed threw 2 interceptions. A&M had 4 total turnovers, 2 fumbles lost. Like this was a pretty chaotic, like luck box, like insane game. I think A&M was clearly the better team. That showed in the second half. They shut out South Carolina, gave up 0 points in the second half, scored 28 unanswered to win 31-30. And dude, Beamer's got, is he gone? This is kind of the question. It's like, I don't know. I think they keep him and they hire a new offensive coordinator, but man, his seat's going to be hot going into next year. I don't really take a lot away from this game narrative wise. I think this is just kind of one of these games that you got to win if you're an elite team. Win your clunkers, as the Solid Verbal podcast always says. South Carolina, I don't think is that high level of team. They just had some turnover luck and some good play calling, or sometimes, right? But they kind of just got lucky in the first half, and then that luck ran out in the second half. And this is kind of what happens when you play teams that are supremely more talented than you are. It's a credit to Mike Elko's defense for making those second half adjustments, for shutting them out in the second half. Yeah. So yeah, no one wants Beamer. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, nobody wants Beamer. I would not have been surprised if he called Blacksburg and was like, "Hey, y'all interested?" And Blacksburg was like, "We got Jimmy Franks on the phone. We're gonna get back to you." And they didn't get back to him. So I still think A&M is a national title contender. I know this is going to be not overreaction hot take, but with that running back staple room they got, with that offensive line they got, with that defense called by Mike Elko that they have, I still think they can beat pretty much anybody in the country on a single Saturday. They just happen to have a down game. And I'm an A&M hater, by the way. As a Baylor fan, I'm a hater of A&M historically. So this is not Aggie homerism on my part. But all right. What are some other notable games? Kind of a quiet Saturday, if you don't count the almost upset. Georgia Tech, man, they continue to skate by. You kind of have watched Georgia Tech and you're like, how are they 9-1? How? And then you look at their thing and they're like, oh, overtime. Oh, barely win. Comeback win. Like, dude, I don't know. I'm rooting for A&M to make fun of. Yeah, that's true. They're going to destroy Texas, by the way. A&M will obliterate Texas. That offensive line, they will be able to keep the Texas pass rushers at bay. Are Georgia Tech bad now? I don't know, is the thing. I think they play down to their competition, which is something they've done. If you look back across Brett Key's tenure, they've kind of played up to their best games. He has the most ranked wins of any ACC head coach since he got hired, but they also played down to some of their opponents. Now, this year, they've kind of been winning the play down games. So is that a step in the right direction? Yes, but your defense, you should not be giving up this many points to these teams that you're playing. They are playing a lot of the bottom of the ACC, which is really, really bad this year. And like, you cannot give up 34 points to Boston College and be a serious football team. I'm sorry. You can't do that. And look, I am a Georgia Tech fan as much as the next guy. I love Haynes King, right? I love Malachi Hosley. Like, I love these guys are awesome. I love Brent Key. I love Buster Faulkner. I love that whole program. But come on, guys, play some defense, tackle. It's Boston College. You're not playing, Ohio State here. And so because of that, yes, they did treat it like a bye week. And then, what happened? They almost lost. So Georgia Tech, they're still, kind of in the driver's seat for the ACC, for the playoff race. They got 2 more games. They got Pitt and they got Georgia. You win those 2 games, you are in the playoff. Okay. If you beat Pitt, you're in the ACC championship game. If you win the ACC championship title, you're in the playoffs. So Georgia Tech completely controls their own destiny, to use a phrase that Ed would absolutely hate. Georgia Tech controls their own destiny. However, I do think there's a problem, and that's their defense. It's quite bad. They've allowed 242 points against them, and that's 71st out of 136 in college football. You cannot have the 71st points allowed defense in college football and be a playoff contender. But Georgia Tech seems to be doing it. And so Haynes King puts this team on his back every week. And I like it, but I'm not as confident as I was, where I was like, they can upset Georgia. I said that multiple times coming into throughout this season. I'm not really there right now. I think at this point, the Georgia and Georgia Tech teams started the season a lot closer together, and their paths have diverged. I think Georgia Tech has kind of gotten worse, especially on defense, and Georgia has gotten a lot better, especially on offense. So I know I was calling Georgia, beating Georgia Tech earlier in the season. I'm not going to retract it because I stand on business, but I'm not there right now. And if I'm making that pick again, I'm not picking that. So with that being said, the game next week versus Pitt, crucial in the ACC race. Hope they win out and do well. USC survives Iowa. This was a slugfest. This is a classic Iowa game. Iowa takes you, they drag you down into the mud. USC, however, had 0 turnovers, and so they didn't give Iowa tons of those opportunities to take advantage. I think this is the kind of game where if you have 2 turnovers, Iowa probably wins. Iowa didn't score in the second half, and so that kind of did them in. Shocker, Iowa's offense prevented them from winning a football game. Yes, Iowa being decent is one of the more random things of the year. However, at this point, every year we're like, oh, clearly Iowa is falling off. Kirk Ferentz, he's just not built for the modern game. And we say this every single year. And what does Iowa do? They win 7-8 games. Like, what is there to say except Kirk Ferentz is a good ball coach, and you can't really deny it. Now, he's not good at an offense, but luckily for him, you don't need an offense to win 7-8 games a year in the Big Ten if you're just a better defensive team than everybody that you play. So interesting, good win for USC, 8-2 now. They are firmly in the playoff hunt. That loss against Notre Dame certainly will hurt them in the at-large position. But in the Big Ten, they only have the 1 loss versus Illinois, which means they're not entirely eliminated from the Big Ten title picture. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Big Ten title, that's just going to be Indiana versus Ohio State. And you would be right, except for the fact that Ohio State has to play Michigan in the Big House. And you're like, how could a Michigan beat Ohio State? I've watched these 2 teams all year. They're nowhere near the same level of talent. They're nowhere near the same level of team. And you would be correct, except last year we saw a absolutely bum Michigan team beat the national champion. So I'm just going to refrain from ever calling the Ohio State-Michigan game a settled subject. I don't know who's going to win. It's probably Ohio State. But if Ohio State loses, and I don't know exactly how the tiebreakers work, but that opens up a whole can of worms in the Big Ten because Oregon is at 1 loss. USC is at 1 loss. And Ohio State would then be at 1 loss. And I believe Michigan would be at 1 loss, if I'm correct. But Oregon, USC is next week. So that game will determine who takes that kind of like third place position if a slot opens up in the Big Ten title game, which it probably won't. And I actually am hoping that we get the Ohio State versus Indiana game of the year that we've been looking towards, these two juggernauts building towards each other. That's what I'm hoping we get. But there are some scenarios where if that doesn't happen, we could get something different. So, yeah, Gronowski is he can't throw the ball, but he can kind of manage. He's a game manager that can run. All right. Let's see here. Clemson beat Louisville, knocked them out of the ACC and playoff picture. Dabo Swinney looked like the dad of a special needs kid when they scored a basket, being like, man, I can't believe we did it. It's like, all right, Dabo, these are 5-stars here. We're supposed to be better than this. Yeah, Underwood has been okay. He is a true freshman. Yes, if it's not OSU, Indiana, we are robbed. I'm just not ruling out craziness happening in the game. Oregon took care of business against Minnesota. What else is going on? Texas Tech obliterated UCF. Texas Tech, here's an interesting scenario. I did not catch Utah State. UNLV did not catch that. I was in and out of the house all week, all Saturday, unfortunately. So I was not able to catch some of the games until Sunday. Utah State UNLV is not one of the games that I rewatched. I did see it went to 2 overtime, but didn't have time to get to that. LSU scraped by Arkansas. Congrats. UConn, man, they beat Air Force. UConn's 8-3, guys. So what analogy? I don't even know what I'm saying. I don't remember anything I said 30 seconds ago. So, Ole Miss beat Florida. Lane putting on an audition for one of his future employers. Navy upset South Florida. So that certainly shakes things up in the American. I almost said AAC. Man, why did they change that? In the American Conference. So I think right now the playoff favorite and American favorite is North Texas, even though South Florida beat them. Blake Horvath, great quarterback, man, for Navy. When these option teams get a good quarterback, they're a force to be reckoned with. So Byron Brown is good, but was not enough to overcome that. James Madison, JMU, sitting right there waiting for the American teams to mess up. Unfortunately, they have no strength of schedule. So the special yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying, bro. Tulane in the AAC. That's right. Tulane's the AAC favorite at this point. They beat FAU, I think, right? Did they play? No. Was it FAU or FIU? They beat one of the Tulane beat one of the Florida schools. And yeah, so I don't know. The group of 5 this year doesn't seem like they're going to have one of those teams that's going to be a contender. I did see a couple of highlights from Horvath. So I didn't watch the game. I watched the condensed highlights of the Navy game. I did see the Navy backup was pretty good. But yeah. What else? Oklahoma State is a sad program. Penn State won the land-grant trophy, the ugliest trophy in all of history. Yeah, not a lot else. Kind of just randomness happened across the board. pretty quiet week other than the main ones. Not the volcanic Saturday that could have happened if some of these comebacks didn't happen. Miami finally did a blowout. And yes, talked about the James Franklin, led the show with that. Spent a good 5 minutes talking about that. So, VT Natty in the next 3 years. That's funny. I think VT could make the ACC championship in 3 years, but they're kind of in a destitute spot right now, and they're going to have to invest a lot. And James Franklin's going to have to do a lot of roster building to get that program up to snuff. I will say though, one of the things I mentioned earlier, and I'll say it again, he has connections all throughout Virginia, the Tidewater, and the kind of Eastern Midwest from when he was at Penn State. Penn State recruited Virginia pretty hard. And so it would not surprise me if he starts putting together a lot of local classes and starts building that roster up in a way that they haven't recruited in a long time. So, yeah, Dad, I'm sure Ed will have some fun reactions to this. I'm trying to keep my Wahoo bias out of this. I'm sure Dad will have some fantastic things to say. If I were to go full UVA fan, I would say it's interesting that in an era where recruiting is now more buying players, that you would go get a head coach that has shown such negative expected value in in-game situations. He's kind of been one of the worst in the country in making stupid in-game decisions, again, in close games. And in a world where roster construction is done more by general managers and by agents and contracts, maybe what Franklin did at Penn State is not really something that's not that it's not replicable, but it may not be necessary to the degree that it was before, where it might be more beneficial to get somebody who's a plus value on game day, who might help you win those close games against similar rosters. So if I were to go UVA fan, I would say that would be my criticism of the hire. I think Franklin makes more sense maybe at a program. And I guess this will also depend who he hires as coordinators. And I don't know what the deal with that is, what kind of financial commitment Tech is actually giving, because I don't know if they really have the resources to pull in and try and be a competitor with the players that Florida State and Miami and Clemson and maybe North Carolina are going to try and go after. So that'll be something to watch. Definitely start to see the players they sort of give offers to and start offering NIL packages to kind of give you an insight into maybe sort of what kind of program Franklin wants to be. I don't know. Let's see what else happened in the world of college football. Yeah, let me get some questions from the chat. Huddle needs a fan meetup at some point. Yeah, we should do that. That'd be fun. That'd be interesting. UVA versus Dayton. That's interesting. All right. We are invited. All right. Well, send me the info because I am returning to the homeland of Virginia for Thanksgiving. So for a little bit and also for Christmas. So partially. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't think Virginia Tech's a national title contender. I don't care what the fans say. They don't have the resource for it. Pop-Tarts Bowl, that'd be fun. I'll dress like Pop-Tarts. I think that'd be a good gig. But all right. Yeah, I think we're probably gonna sign off here. Pretty soon. I kind of everything we got. So much Spike Ball meetup, Friendsgiving. Some are saying. It has been a minute. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been yapping for a long time. I just did a 40-minute solo show. That's kind of crazy. All right. thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like the video on YouTube and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you see when we go live. And